Commander Vextar Caney stood on the bridge of his ship, watching the stars through the large window. His dark blue skin showed the marks of 40 years in the military. His forearms moved quickly over the control panels as he prepared to watch what he thought would be an easy battle. The humans were about to fight the Krellians. Vextar had seen many battles in space, but he had never watched humans fight before. His people, the Zephyrians, wanted to know if humans were strong enough to be good friends in war. If humans were weak, the Zephyrians would ignore them. If humans were strong, maybe they could work together. "Sir, the human ships are moving into position," said his helper, a young officer named Rixta. "Should we move closer to see better?" "No," Vextar said with his deep voice. "We stay hidden. The humans must not know we are here." Through his special viewing device, Vextar could see the human fleet. There were 20 human ships led by Captain Jake Morrison in his ship called the USS Liberty. The Krellian enemy had 30 ships, all bigger and with more weapons than the human ships. This should be an easy win for the Krellians. Vextar had read about human fighting before. The report said humans were simple fighters. They liked to attack straight ahead with all their power. They did not think much about smart plans. They just shot their weapons until the enemy was gone or they were dead. "The Krellians are coming," Rixta said. "Their ships are in the attack formation we learned about in school." Vextar nodded. The Krellian ships moved in a perfect line, just like the military books said they should. This was how real soldiers fought. They followed the rules. They did what worked before, but something was wrong with the human ships. Instead of moving forward to attack, they were moving backward. Some ships went left, others went right. It looked like they were running away. "Are the humans afraid?" Rixta asked. "Why are they not attacking?" Vextar watched more carefully. The human captain, Jake Morrison, was talking to his officers on a channel that Vextar could listen to. "Amy, are you ready with the ghost signals?" Morrison asked. "Yes, sir," came the voice of Lieutenant Amy Foster. "The Krellians will think we have 40 ships instead of 20. "Good. Greg, how are your ships doing?" "All ready, Jake," said Admiral Greg Parker. "My group will come from behind when you give the signal." Vextar felt confused. What were ghost signals? Where was Admiral Parker's group? He could only see 20 human ships, and they were all moving away from the battle. The Krellians moved forward, happy that the humans were running. Their commander was probably thinking this would be the easiest battle of his life. But then something strange happened. The human ships that were running away suddenly turned around, but now there seemed to be more of them. Vextar's equipment showed 40 human ships where there had been 20 before. "That is not possible," Rixta said. "Where did the other ships come from?" Before Vextar could answer, more human ships appeared behind the Krellians. Admiral Parker's group had been hiding behind a small moon. The Krellians were now trapped between two groups of human ships. But Lieutenant Amy Foster was not done with her tricks. She made the human ships look like they were in different places than they really were. When the Krellians shot their weapons, they hit empty space. But when the humans shot back, they hit real Krellian ships. How are they doing this? Vextar asked himself. In 40 years of fighting, he had never seen anything like this. Captain Morrison's voice came over the radio again. "Now, Amy, make them think we are hurt." Suddenly, many human ships looked like they were on fire and moving slowly. The Krellians thought they were winning and moved closer to finish the fight. But it was all fake. When the Krellians came close, the human ships were perfectly fine and shot them with all their weapons. Vextar watched as the Krellian commander tried to give orders to his ships. But his ships were confused. They did not know which human ships were real and which were fake. They did not know where the attacks were coming from. Some Krellian ships were shooting at ghosts while real human ships attacked them from behind. "Sir," Rixta said quietly, "the Krellians are losing, but they have bigger ships and more weapons. How are the humans winning?" Vextar did not answer. He was thinking too hard. The humans were not following any fighting rules he knew. They were making up new rules as they fought. Every time the Krellians tried to do something, the humans were already ready for it. Lieutenant Amy Foster seemed to know what the Krellians would do before they did it. She told Captain Morrison, "They will try to break through our left side in 30 seconds. And 30 seconds later, that is exactly what the Krellians tried to do, but the humans were ready and stopped them easily. Admiral Parker's ships moved, like they were dancing. They were never where the Krellians thought they would be. When the Krellians shot at them, they were already somewhere else, but they always knew exactly where to shoot to hit the Krellian ships. The battle was over in 1 hour. All 30 Krellian ships were destroyed or captured. The humans lost no ships at all. Only 3 human ships had small damage that could be fixed quickly." Vextar sat down in his chair, feeling weak. In his 40 years as a soldier, he had never seen anything like this. The humans had been outnumbered and had smaller ships, but they won easily. They won because they thought differently than everyone else. "Sir, should we go home and make our report?" Rixta asked. "Not yet," Vextar said. "I need to understand what just happened." He watched the recordings of the battle again and again. Each time he saw something new. The humans did not just have one plan, they had many plans, and they changed between them during the battle. When one plan worked, they made it better. When the enemy figured out what they were doing, they tried something completely different. Captain Morrison talked to his officers like they were friends, not like a commander giving orders. He asked for their ideas. Lieutenant Amy Foster suggested new tricks during the battle, and Morrison used them right away. Admiral Parker changed his part of the plan 3 times, and Morrison agreed each time. This was not how armies were supposed to work. Soldiers were supposed to follow orders, not give ideas. Commanders were supposed to make plans before battles, not change them during fights. But somehow, the human way worked better than anything Vextar had ever seen. The human ships were now flying away, talking and laughing on their radios. They were happy, but they were not bragging about their win. Instead, they were talking about what they could do better next time. Even after a perfect battle, they wanted to learn and improve. Vextar realized something that scared him. If he had to fight these humans with his own ships, he would lose. All his training, all his experience, all his knowledge of war would not help him. The humans would do things he never expected, and he would not know how to respond. For the first time in 40 years, Commander Vextar Caney felt like he did not understand war at all. Commander Vextar Caney could not sleep. 3 days had passed since he watched the humans defeat the Krellians, but he still thought about it every moment. He kept watching the battle recordings over and over, trying to understand how the humans did what they did. His ship was now flying toward the Zephyrian homeworld. General Thisara had ordered him to come back and give a full report about human fighting abilities. But Vextar knew his report would not be enough. He needed to understand how humans thought about war. "Sir," said Rixta, walking into his room, "General Thisara is calling. She wants to talk to you." Vextar turned on his communication device. The green face of General Thisara appeared on the screen. She had been his commander for 10 years, and he respected her greatly. Her 6 eyes looked at him with interest. "Vextar, I have read your early report about the human battle. You say they fought in ways we have never seen before. Tell me more." "General, they do not follow any rules of war that we know. They make up new ways to fight during the battle itself. They trick their enemies and make them see things that are not real." General Thisara's eyes narrowed. "That sounds like lying and cheating. Are humans without honor?" "No, General. They have great honor. But they think differently about how to win battles. They believe that saving their soldiers' lives is more important than following old rules." "Interesting," the general said. "We have captured some human prisoners recently. I want you to question them. Find out their secrets so we can use them against other humans if we need to." Vextar felt uncomfortable, but he said, "Yes, General. I will do as you order." 2 days later, Vextar's ship arrived at the prison station. The building was cold and gray, floating in space far from any planet. Inside, there were cells holding prisoners from many different wars. Most prisoners looked sad and afraid, but the human prisoners were different. The guard, a young Zephyrian named Kexvo, led Vextar to the human section. "These humans are strange, sir. They do not act like other prisoners. They talk to each other all the time and they seem almost happy. Vexitar looked through the window of the first cell. Inside were two humans. One was a man in a military uniform with gray hair and calm eyes. The other was a woman in a different kind of uniform, younger but with an intelligent face. "Those are Colonel Ben Harris and Dr. Lisa Martinez," Kexvo said. "The man is a military commander. The woman is some kind of mind doctor who works with soldiers." "Bring them to the question room," Vexitar said. A few minutes later, Vexitar sat across from the two humans. Colonel Harris looked at him without fear. Dr. Martinez seemed curious about him, like she wanted to understand what kind of creature he was. "I am Commander Vexitar Caney," he said in English, which he had learned from studying human communications. "I want to ask you about how humans fight wars." Colonel Harris smiled a little. "Are you the one who watched our battle with the Krellians? Our sensors picked up a Zephyrian ship hiding nearby." Vexitar was surprised. "You knew we were there?" "Of course," Dr. Martinez said. "Captain Morrison always knows when someone is watching, but he did not mind. He figured you were there to learn something." "I do want to learn," Vexitar said honestly. "Your people fight in ways I have never seen. How do you make plans that change during battle? How do you know what your enemies will do before they do it?" Colonel Harris and Dr. Martinez looked at each other. Then Harris said, "We can talk about general ideas. We will not tell you secret information, but we can explain how humans think about fighting." "Humans do not really make battle plans," Dr. Martinez began. "We make ideas about what might happen, and then we prepare to change those ideas when we need to." "But that makes no sense," Vexitar said. "How can you coordinate many ships if everyone is changing the plan?" "We teach our people to think, not just to follow orders," Harris explained. "Every human soldier learns to see problems and solve them quickly. We do not wait for orders from commanders who are far away." Dr. Martinez nodded. "In human military psychology, we have learned that the person closest to a problem usually has the best ideas about how to solve it. So we let our soldiers make decisions." "But what about discipline? What about following orders?" Vexitar asked. "We follow orders about what we want to achieve," Harris said. "But how we achieve it, that is up to each soldier to figure out. If I tell a soldier to capture a building, I do not tell him exactly how to do it. He looks at the situation and decides the best way." This was completely different from Zephyrian military thinking. In Vexitar's army, every soldier had exact instructions for every situation. There were rules for everything. "Let me tell you a story," Harris said. "Many years ago on Earth there was a battle called Thermopylae. 300 Spartan soldiers fought against hundreds of thousands of Persian soldiers. The Spartans knew they would probably die, but they chose the perfect place to fight. The Persians could only attack a few at a time, so the Spartans held them off for days. They still lost," Vexitar pointed out, "but they won something more important," Dr. Martinez said. "They showed other Greeks that the Persians could be stopped. That gave hope to all the Greek armies, and eventually the Greeks won the whole war." Harris told more stories. He talked about a general named Hannibal, who brought elephants over mountains that everyone said were impossible to cross. He talked about a battle where a few thousand English soldiers defeated a much larger French army by using new weapons in a smart way. "Humans have always been outnumbered in our wars," Harris said. "So we learn to win by being smarter, not stronger. We learn to use the land, the weather, and the enemy's own strength against them." "But how do you teach this?" Vexitar asked. "How do you make soldiers who can think like this?" Dr. Martinez smiled. "We do not make them think like us, we teach them to think for themselves. In human military training, we give soldiers problems with no clear answer. We make them find their own solutions. We also teach them that it is good to fail," Harris added. "When a young soldier tries something and it does not work, we do not punish him. We ask him what he learned and what he will try next time." Vexitar felt his mind spinning. "You want your soldiers to fail?" "We want them to learn from failure," Dr. Martinez explained. "A soldier who has never failed has never tried anything difficult. A soldier who has failed and learned from it is ready for anything." The conversation continued for hours. The humans told him about their military schools, where students were taught to question everything and think of new solutions. They explained how human commanders were trained to listen to ideas from anyone, even the lowest-ranking soldiers. In our last battle, Harris said, the idea that won the fight came from a young lieutenant who had been in the military for only 2 years. Admiral Parker listened to her idea and used it, even though she was much lower in rank than him. That was Lieutenant Amy Foster, Dr. Martinez added. She is a perfect example of how we train our people. She does not just follow tactical rules. She studies the enemy and thinks about what they do not expect. Vextar realized something important. You do not have one way of fighting. You have as many ways as you have soldiers. Exactly, Harris said. Every human soldier is taught to be creative. When we face an enemy, we do not ask, what does the rule book say to do? We ask, what would surprise them the most? Dr. Martinez leaned forward. Commander, can I ask you something? In your military, what happens if a soldier suggests a different way to do something? Vexter thought about it. He would be punished for not following orders. And that, she said gently, is why you will always lose to humans in battle. We have millions of minds all trying to solve the same problem. You have one mind telling everyone else what to do. When Vexitar left the prison that day, his head was full of new ideas. The humans had not told him any military secrets, but they had shown him something much more important. They had shown him a completely different way of thinking about war. That night, he tried to write his report for General Tissera. But every time he started, he realized that he could not explain what he had learned in a simple report. The human way of fighting was not about weapons or tactics. It was about how they thought about problems. For the first time in his life, Vexitar began to question everything he had been taught about being a soldier. Vexitar sat alone in his dark room staring at the blank report screen. It had been 3 weeks since he talked to the human prisoners, and he still could not write his report to General Tissera. Every time he tried to explain what he had learned, the words seemed wrong. How could he tell his general that everything they knew about war was incomplete? How could he explain that the humans were not just different, but maybe better at fighting than the Zephyrians? He turned on his viewing screen and watched more recordings of human battles. His ship's computer had collected hundreds of them from different wars. Each battle showed him something new about how humans fought. In one battle, Captain Jake Morrison's fleet fought against the Nexus swarm ships. The Nexus had thousands of small, fast ships that attacked like angry insects. Most armies would use big weapons to destroy many small ships at once, but the humans did something different. They created a trap. Morrison's ships flew into a narrow space between 2 large rocks. When the Nexus ships followed them, the humans used the rocks to limit where the enemy could fly. The Nexus ships got in each other's way and could not use their speed advantage. The humans destroyed them easily. Smart, Vexitar said to himself. They made the enemy's strength become a weakness. He watched another battle where humans fought against his own people. A small group of Zephyrian ships had attacked a human supply convoy. The Zephyrian commander followed perfect military doctrine. He attacked the strongest human ships first, trying to destroy the convoy's protection. But the humans did not defend their convoy the way the rulebook said they should. Instead, they let the Zephyrian ships get close. Then the supply ships themselves opened fire. The supply ships were actually warships disguised to look harmless. The Zephyrian commander was so surprised that his ships were destroyed before they could react. They made us see what we expected to see, Vexitar realized. They knew we would attack the obvious targets, so they made the wrong targets look obvious. He found a third battle where humans fought against the heavily armored Krellian dreadnoughts. The Krellian ships were huge and almost impossible to destroy with normal weapons. Any sensible commander would either run away or bring bigger ships to fight them. The humans brought smaller ships. But they did not try to destroy the Krellian ships. Instead, they attached small devices to the outside of the enemy ships. These devices jammed the Krellian sensors and communications. The big ships became blind and deaf. They could not see where to shoot or talk to each other. The humans then attacked the helpless giants with precision strikes. Vexitar turned off the viewing screen and rubbed his tired eyes. Every human battle showed the same pattern. The humans would look at their enemy and ask, "What does this enemy do well? How can we make that strength useless?" They never fought the same way twice. Against fast enemies, they used traps and obstacles. Against strong enemies, they used tricks and deceptions. Against smart enemies, they did things that seemed crazy but actually made perfect sense. His door chimed. "Come in," he said. Rixta entered carrying a message pad. "Sir, General Thisara wants your report. She says the High Command is getting impatient." Vextar took the message pad and read it. General Thisara had written, "Commander Caney, we need your analysis of human military capabilities immediately. The High Marshal is planning our response to human expansion in this sector. We must know their weaknesses so we can exploit them." "Rixta," Vextar said slowly, "what would you do if you had to fight the humans?" The young officer thought for a moment. "I would follow the standard attack formation. Use our superior firepower to destroy their command ships first, then clean up the rest." "And what do you think the humans would do?" "They would try to run away or call for help, I suppose." Vextar shook his head. "No. They would let you attack their command ships, but the command ships would be decoys. The real commanders would be in ships that look like supply vessels or damaged ships. While you are destroying fake targets, they would be planning their real attack." Rixta looked confused. "But that would be against military protocol. Command ships are supposed to be the strongest ships." "Human protocol is different," Vextar said. "Their protocol is to win, not to follow rules." After Rixta left, Vextar tried again to write his report. He started with simple facts. Human ships are generally smaller than ours. Their weapons are less powerful. Their armor is thinner. All of this was true, but it was not the important truth. He deleted what he had written and started again. Humans use deception and misdirection as primary tactics. But that was not right either. Deception was just one tool humans used. He tried a third time. Human commanders encourage soldiers to think independently and adapt to changing situations. This was closer, but it still did not capture the real difference. The truth was that humans did not just fight wars. They reinvented war with every battle. They treated each fight like a new puzzle that needed a creative solution. They were not bound by tradition or rules or the way things had always been done. Vextar realized he could not write this report because he did not really understand humans yet. He only knew that they were different. To truly understand them, he would need to learn from them directly. His communication device chimed. General Thisara appeared on the screen, looking annoyed. "Vextar, where is your report?" "The High Marshal is waiting." "General, I need more time. The humans are more complex than we thought." "Complex? They are just another species. What is there to understand? Do they have strong ships or weak ships? Do they have good weapons or bad weapons?" "General, those are not the right questions." Thisara's 6 eyes narrowed. "What do you mean?" Vextar took a deep breath. "The humans do not win battles because they have better ships or weapons. They win because they think about war differently than we do. They create new ways to fight during each battle." "That is impossible," the general said. "Military doctrine exists for good reasons. You cannot just make up new tactics in the middle of a fight." "But they do, General. I have watched them do it dozens of times. Then they are lucky or their enemies are stupid." Vextar felt frustrated. "General, I request permission to study the humans more closely. I need to understand how they train their soldiers and plan their battles." "Absolutely not," Thisara said firmly. "I need your report now so we can plan our defenses. If humans are expanding into our territory, we must be ready to stop them. General, if we fight the humans using our standard tactics, we will lose." The screen was quiet for a long moment. Then Thisara said, "Commander Kane, you have served with honor for 40 years. But I think watching these battles has confused you. The Zephyrian military has never lost a war. Our tactics are proven and effective. Against enemies who fight like us," Vextar said. "The humans do not fight like us." "Write your report, Commander. That is an order." The communication ended. Vextar sat in his chair, staring at the blank screen. He knew what General Thisara wanted to hear. She wanted him to say that humans were just another enemy who could be defeated with standard Zephyrian tactics. She wanted him to find weaknesses that could be exploited, but he could not write that report because it would be a lie. The humans did not have the kind of weaknesses that Zephyrian tactics could exploit. Their strength came from their ability to adapt and change, which meant they could fix any weakness as soon as it was discovered. Vextar realized that he had come to a decision point in his life. He could write the report that General Thisara wanted, knowing it would lead to defeat if the Zephyrians fought humans, or he could refuse to write a false report and face the consequences. But there was a third choice. He could resign from the military and go to Earth to learn directly from the humans. He could study their methods and understand their way of thinking. Maybe he could even bring that knowledge back to help his own people. The idea seemed crazy. He was a decorated commander with 40 years of service. He was close to retirement with full honors. Why would he throw all of that away to go study with aliens? But every time he watched the human battles, he felt the same thing. He felt like he was seeing the future of warfare, and his own people were still fighting wars from the past. Vextar opened a new document on his computer. Instead of writing a battle report, he began writing a resignation letter. To High Marshal Zentok, he wrote, "I am submitting my resignation from the Zephyrian Defense Force effective immediately. After 40 years of service, I have come to realize that I do not understand warfare as well as I thought I did." He paused, then continued typing. "I have observed human military tactics and found them to be unlike anything in our training or experience. Rather than provide an incomplete analysis that might lead to poor decisions, I believe it is better for me to step aside and allow someone else to handle this important task." He stopped typing and read what he had written. It was not the whole truth, but it was enough truth to satisfy his conscience. He was not telling the High Marshal that he planned to go to Earth, but he was not lying about his reasons for resigning. Vextar sent the letter before he could change his mind. Then he sent a message to the ship's navigation computer, programming a course for Earth. For the first time in 40 years, he was not following orders. He was following his curiosity to see where it would lead him. Vextar's small ship traveled through space toward Earth. He had been flying for 2 weeks, and each day took him further from everything he had known. His ship was not designed for long trips, and he was starting to worry about his fuel and food supplies. He spent most of his time reading about human culture and history. The more he learned, the more he understood why humans fought the way they did. They had spent thousands of years fighting each other on their home planet. Every new war taught them new ways to think about battle. Humans had fought with swords, then guns, then flying machines, then ships in space. Each time they got new weapons, they had to learn new ways to use them. They never had time to create perfect rules because their enemies were always changing too. "Warning," his ship's computer said. "Engine power is decreasing. Landing required for repairs." Vextar looked at his star maps. The closest place to stop was a human colony called New Haven. It was a small mining world on the edge of human space. He had no choice but to go there and hope the humans would help him instead of capturing him. As his ship approached New Haven, he sent a message on the emergency frequency. "This is Vextar Caney, a Zephyrian citizen. My ship needs repairs. I request permission to land." The answer came quickly. "This is New Haven Control. You are cleared to land at Pad 7. Medical and repair teams are standing by." Vextar was surprised. The humans did not sound afraid or suspicious. They sounded helpful, like they dealt with alien visitors every day. When his ship landed, Vextar saw several humans waiting for him. One was wearing a blue uniform that looked like a ship captain's clothes. Another was wearing work clothes and carrying repair tools. A third was wearing a formal suit like a government official. Vextar opened his ship's door and stepped out. The humans did not point weapons at him or act like he was dangerous. The captain stepped forward and held out his hand. "I'm Captain Ryan Mitchell," the man said. "Welcome to New Haven. Are you injured?" "No, I am not hurt," Vextar replied, shaking the human's hand carefully. "My ship has engine problems. I need repairs before I can continue my journey." The woman with the tools walked over to look at his ship. "I'm Kate Sullivan, chief engineer here. Mind if I take a look at your engines?" "Please do," Vextar said. "I am grateful for your help." As Kate began examining his ship, the man in the suit approached. "I'm Alex Chen, diplomatic liaison for this sector. Can I ask what brings a Zephyrian ship to human space?" Vextar had prepared for this question, but he still felt nervous. "I am traveling to Earth to learn about human culture and military history. I am no longer in the Zephyrian military. I am a private citizen." Alex Chen raised his eyebrows. "That's interesting. We don't get many Zephyrian tourists. Most contact between our species has been through military channels." Captain Mitchell nodded. "Alex is right. But if you're here peacefully, you're welcome. We believe in helping travelers, no matter where they come from." Kate Sullivan called out from under his ship. "I found your problem. Your fuel converter is running too hot. It's an easy fix, but I'll need a few hours." "I have no money to pay you," Vextar said honestly. "Don't worry about it," Kate said. "We help people who need help. That's what neighbors do." Vextar was confused. "But I am not your neighbor, I am from a different species." Captain Mitchell smiled. "Out here in space, everyone is a neighbor. We're all just trying to get by in a big empty universe." While Kate worked on his ship, Alex Chen took Vextar on a tour of the colony. New Haven was small, with only a few thousand people, but it was well organized. The humans had built their town to work with the planet's environment instead of fighting against it. "We mine rare metals here," Alex explained as they walked. "But we also grow food and make art. Humans like to do many different things, even in a small place like this." They stopped at a small building where children were learning. Through the window, Vextar could see a teacher showing the children how to solve problems using different methods. "What are they learning?" he asked. "Critical thinking," Alex said. "We teach our children to look at problems from many angles and find creative solutions. We don't just tell them what to think, we teach them how to think." This reminded Vextar of what Colonel Harris had told him about human military training. Even the children were being taught to think like the human soldiers he had observed. As they continued walking, they met Commander Sam Torres, a human military officer who was visiting the colony. When Alex introduced Vextar and explained his mission, Torres became very interested. "You resigned from the Zephyrian military to study human warfare?" Torres asked. "That's quite a sacrifice. Can I ask why?" Vextar thought carefully about his answer. "I watched human ships fight, and I realized that everything I learned in 40 years of military service was incomplete. Your people fight in ways I do not understand." Torres nodded slowly. "Would you like to observe some of our training exercises while you're here? We have a small training facility on this world." "I would be honored," Vextar said. The next day, Torres took Vextar to watch human soldiers practice. But this was not like any military training Vextar had ever seen. Instead of teaching the soldiers to follow specific procedures, the instructors gave them problems with no clear solutions. "Your team needs to capture that building," one instructor told a group of young soldiers. "The enemy has more weapons than you do, and they know you are coming. You have 1 hour to make a plan." Vextar watched as the soldiers discussed many different ideas. Some wanted to attack directly. Others wanted to sneak around the building. One suggested creating a distraction, while another team approached from an unexpected direction. The instructor did not tell them which idea was correct. Instead, he asked questions. "What will happen if the enemy sees you coming? What if they have backup weapons you don't know about? What if your first plan doesn't work?" The soldiers kept changing their plan as they thought of new problems. Finally, they decided to use 3 different approaches at the same time. If one plan failed, the others might still work. "Why do you not teach them the correct way to capture a building?" Vextar asked Torres. "Because there is no correct way," Torres replied. "Every building is different, every enemy is different, every situation is unique. We teach our soldiers to analyze and adapt, not to memorize procedures." During the exercise, Vextar watched the young soldiers work together. When one soldier had an idea, The others listened. When someone made a mistake, the team figured out how to fix it. The person in charge was not the only one making decisions. In the Zephyrian military, soldiers follow orders from their commander, Vextar said. Here, it looks like everyone is a commander. That's exactly right, Torres said. We train every soldier to think like a leader. When the real commander is killed or captured, someone else can take over immediately. The exercise ended successfully. The soldiers had captured the building using a combination of stealth, distraction, and direct attack. But Torres was more interested in how they thought than in whether they won. What did you learn? He asked the soldiers. We learned that our first plan was too simple, one soldier said. We needed backup plans. We learned to listen to everyone's ideas, said another. The best solution came from combining different suggestions. We learned that the enemy might not do what we expect, said a third. We have to be ready for surprises. Torres turned to Vextar. This is how we train. We don't teach answers, we teach questions. How do I solve this problem? What if this doesn't work? What would the enemy not expect? That evening, Vextar sat with Kate Sullivan while she finished repairing his ship. She had not only fixed the fuel converter but had also improved several other systems. Why did you make these improvements? He asked. I only asked you to fix the fuel problem. Kate smiled as she worked. Because I could make it better. Humans don't like to just fix things, we like to improve them. But these improvements will help me reach Earth faster. You are helping someone who might be your enemy. Kate stopped working and looked at him. Are you my enemy? I do not think so. But my people might become your enemies someday. Then I hope that when that day comes you will remember that a human engineer named Kate Sullivan helped you when you needed it. Maybe that will make a difference. The next morning, Vextar's ship was ready to fly. Captain Mitchell, Alex Chen, Kate Sullivan and Commander Torres all came to see him off. Good luck on Earth, Torres said. I hope you find what you're looking for. I think I already have, Vextar replied. You have shown me that humans help others even when they do not have to. You have shown me that you teach people to think, not just to obey. You have shown me that you make things better whenever you can. As his repaired ship lifted off from New Haven, Vextar thought about what he had learned. The humans were not just different in how they fought wars. They were different in how they lived their lives. They helped strangers, encouraged questions, and always tried to improve things. He was beginning to understand that human military success came from human nature itself. They were curious, helpful, and creative in everything they did. When they brought these qualities to warfare, they became nearly impossible to defeat. Earth was still several days away, but Vextar felt like his real education had already begun. Vextar's ship entered Earth's solar system on a bright morning. Through his viewing screen, he could see the blue and green planet that was home to the humans. It looked peaceful and beautiful, not like the home of the galaxy's most dangerous warriors. As his ship approached Earth, he received a message from Human Space Control. Unknown vessel, this is Earth Defense Command. Please identify yourself and state your purpose. This is Vextar Caney, former commander of the Zephyrian Defense Force. I am requesting permission to visit Earth as a student. I want to learn about human military science. There was a long pause. Then a different voice came on the radio. Mr. Kane, this is General Patricia Webb of the Earth Military Academy. We received word about you from Commander Torres at New Haven. You are welcome here. Please follow the navigation signals to our landing facility. 2 hours later, Vextar stood in the office of General Webb. She was a tall woman with gray hair and kind but intelligent eyes. Her office was filled with books about military history and strategy from many different worlds. Commander Torres told me about your visit to New Haven, General Webb said. He was impressed by your desire to learn. It's not often that a senior military officer from another species asks to study with us. I am no longer a commander, Vextar said. I resigned my position because I realized I did not understand warfare as well as I thought. General Webb smiled. The beginning of wisdom is knowing what you don't know. Would you like to enroll in our advanced strategy program? You would attend classes with our best students and officers. I would be honored, Vextar replied. The next day, Vextar began his education at the Earth Military Academy. His first class was military history, taught by Professor Dan Rogers. But this was not like any history class in the Zephyrian military schools. Today we will study the Battle of Cannae, Professor Rogers said to the class of 20 human students and 1 alien. This battle happened over 2,000 years ago on Earth, but the lessons are still important today. Vextar sat next to a young human named Cadet Chris Johnson, who seemed curious about having an alien classmate. Professor Rogers showed them maps of the ancient battle. The Roman army had twice as many soldiers as Hannibal's army. The Romans had better weapons and armor. By all logic, they should have won easily. But Hannibal won by using the Romans' strength against them. How? Asked one of the students. Hannibal made his army look weak in the center. Rogers explained. When the Romans attacked, Hannibal's center bent backward like it was breaking. The Romans pushed forward, thinking they were winning. But this put the Roman army in a pocket. Then Hannibal's strong forces on the sides closed in. The Romans were trapped and destroyed. Chris Johnson raised his hand. Professor, why didn't the Roman commander see the trap? Because he was thinking like most military commanders think, Rogers replied. He saw that his army was stronger, so he used his strength in the most obvious way. Hannibal was thinking differently. He asked himself, how can I make my enemy's strength become a weakness? Vextar realized this was exactly what he had seen in the space battles. The humans always found ways to turn their enemies' advantages into disadvantages. This pattern appears throughout human military history, Rogers continued. At Thermopylae, the Greeks used a narrow pass to neutralize the Persian numbers advantage. At Agincourt, the English used mud and longbows to defeat French heavy cavalry. In every case, the smaller force won by changing the rules of the battle. After class, Chris Johnson walked with Vextar to their next lesson. What do you think of Professor Rogers' teaching? Chris asked. It is very different from Zephyrian military education, Vextar said. We study battles to learn the correct procedures. You study battles to learn how to think. That's the point, Chris said. We can't just copy what worked before because every battle is different. We have to understand why something worked, so we can apply that thinking to new situations. Their next class was with Captain Emma Davis, who taught special tactics. She led them to a training room where everything could be changed. The walls could move, the lighting could be adjusted, and obstacles could appear anywhere. Today you will practice adaptive thinking, Captain Davis announced. I am going to give you a problem, but every time you start to solve it, I will change the problem. You must learn to think while the situation is changing around you. She divided the class into teams. Vextar was put on a team with Chris Johnson and 2 other cadets named Kelly Wright and Mark Taylor. Their mission was to rescue hostages from a building, but Captain Davis kept changing the rules. First, she told them the building had 3 floors. They made a plan to search each floor. Then she said there were now 5 floors. They changed their plan. Then she said some floors were on fire. They changed their plan again. Then she said the hostages were not in the building at all, but in underground tunnels. At first, Vextar felt frustrated. How could they make a good plan if the situation kept changing? But his teammates seemed to enjoy the challenge. Don't plan for what is, Kelly Wright said. Plan for what might be. Always. Have backup plans for your backup plans, Mark Taylor added. By the end of the exercise, Vextar was starting to understand. The goal was not to make a perfect plan. The goal was to learn how to think quickly when everything went wrong. Good work, Captain Davis said when the exercise ended. Now tell me what you learned. We learned that plans must be flexible, Chris Johnson said. We learned to expect the unexpected, Kelly Wright added. We learned that the mission is more important than the plan, Mark Taylor said. Vextar raised his hand. I learned that problems are not obstacles. They are information. Each new problem tells us something about what we are really facing. Captain Davis smiled. Excellent observation, Vextar. That kind of thinking will serve you well. Over the following weeks, Vextar studied with Major Tony Garcia, who taught logistics and resource management. Garcia showed him how human supply lines were designed to be flexible and self-repairing. Most armies have supply chains, Garcia explained. We have supply webs. If one route is cut, the supplies automatically find another path. Our soldiers are trained to live off the land and improvise tools from whatever they can find. Garcia told stories of human soldiers who had won battles using broken equipment, improvised weapons, and supplies meant for completely different purposes. A human soldier with a broken radio and a handful of spare parts is still dangerous, he said, because humans don't just use tools. They improve tools and create new tools. Vextar's favorite class was with Dr. Ruth Parker, who taught military psychology. She explained how human commanders motivated their troops and made decisions under pressure. Fear is not the enemy, Dr. Parker taught. Fear gives us information about danger. The enemy is panic, which happens when fear overwhelms thinking. We train our soldiers to feel fear but still think clearly. She showed them exercises where soldiers had to solve complex problems while being shouted at, while loud noises played, and while fake explosions went off around them. The goal was to learn to think under any conditions. In real combat, there is always chaos, she explained. The side that can think clearly in chaos has a huge advantage. After 2 months of study, Vextar participated in his first major training exercise. He was assigned to lead a mixed team of human students in a simulated battle against another team. For the first time in his life, instead of following established procedures, Vextar tried to think like the humans had taught him. He looked at the enemy team and asked, "What do they expect us to do? What would surprise them?" His team was supposed to capture a defended position. The enemy expected a direct attack or a flanking maneuver. Instead, Vextar had his team pretend to retreat. When the enemy came out to chase them, other members of his team who had been hiding captured the abandoned position. But the exercise was not over. The enemy team adapted quickly and surrounded Vextar's position. Now he was trapped. In Zephyrian military doctrine, he would call for reinforcements or prepare for a siege. Instead, he remembered what Captain Davis had taught about turning problems into information. Why did the enemy surround him instead of attacking directly? Because they wanted to capture him alive. That meant his position was more valuable than he had realized. Vextar split his team in half. One half stayed to defend the position. The other half snuck out through the enemy lines and captured the enemy's main base while they were busy surrounding Vextar. The exercise ended with Vextar's team victorious. But more importantly, he had won by thinking like a human instead of like a Zephyrian. "Excellent work," General Webb told him afterward. "You combined your species' precision and planning with our adaptability and creativity. The result was better than either approach alone." That evening, General Webb called Vextar to her office. "I have a proposition for you," she said. "How would you like to become an instructor here? You could teach our students about Zephyrian tactical thinking while continuing to learn our methods." Vextar thought about it for a moment. "Yes," he said. "I would like that very much." "Good. I also want you to consider something else. Would you be willing to serve as an ambassador between our species? We think there is much our peoples could learn from each other.